I came here this morning to tell you about Hanukkah, which you've heard a lot about already. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it is that I, was raised Unitarian Universalist, which is a pretty, what you might call syncretistic faith, which means that we take a lot of other things and we say, well, this works for us, and we incorporate it, and this works for, and all religions do that to some extent. You have to be careful about appropriation. But you can also think of syncretism as the fact that, we have greenery hung around the church. Let me tell you a funny story about pagan rituals, So that's syncretism too, the fact that around the world as Christianity began to spread, the rituals of people around the darkest time of year became incorporated into Christmas and Hanukkah and all the other holidays. There are about 40 different religious holidays in the 30 days surrounding the winter solstice from all over the world. The ones that we tend to think of here, we refer to in this way. We talk about them as celebrating the return of the light, the turn of the earth back to the spring. And that's true. That's a huge part of it. But when you think about the original story of Hanukkah, let's be real, that's not what it's about. It's about a military victory. The fact that it happens during this time of year is interesting, but I checked, did a little research online, and the fact is, Israel's pretty close to the equator, so there's not like a huge change in daylight hours. It's a bit. It's less than what we have here in Texas, and we have much less than the folks north of us as far as change in our length of days. And yet we still feel that urge to talk about the return to the warmth and the light. And so when I first began creating this service, I planned to talk a little bit more about Hanukkah as part of that. And then I read more, and I had researched more, and I learned it's really not about that. Then I read even more. Oh, the internet, thank God. And one thing that we can talk about syncretism is Hanukkah. Hanukkah, as we know it in America, was largely brought here by Northern Europeans, by folks who lived in areas where it does get dark and cold in the winter, where we do want to focus on the return of the light. And so a lot of the more modern Hanukkah readings and blessings have to do with that as well. And in the book even, you noticed it talked about the warm, cozy feeling of Hanukkah. And so it's interesting to me that first I was like, it's about light. And then I was like, wait, no, it's not. They said it's not. And then I was like, wait, but they said maybe it is? So that is all my disclaimer. I am not wanting to be sacrilegious or disrespectful of Judaism, and I want you to know that. And if I make mistakes, I apologize, and I will be happily corrected. So, really quickly, we do have a Hanukkah here, which is the special menorah for Hanukkah. It's a Venn diagram. All Hanukkahs are menorahs, which just is a special candelabra, but not all menorahs are Hanukkah, because this menorah, most of the ones, like the ones you see in illustrations of the Holy Temple, have 3 on each side and then a central one for lighting. But Hanukkah, because it celebrates the 8 days of the miracle, has 4 on each side. So, there you go. You learned an exciting new fact today. The difference between a menorah and a Hanukkah. So what I'm going to do is share 8 thoughts with you about this holiday, about perseverance, about miracles, and about us. And so I hope that you will join in with me with all my disclaimers and reading about this holiday, not just this year, but in past years as well. It's become a very meaningful story to me. The stories around it, the mythology of it, and also the truth of it. So, here we go. I'm not going to light the candles, but because today is the first day of Hanukkah and it starts at sundown, So I won't be doing that, but each of these represents a candle. So in your imagination, and I believe that you start from right to left when you're lighting your Hanukkah. No, left to right. Okay, so imagine you're starting stage left. Stage left? That's here? I know. All right. First candle. More than 2,000 years ago, the soldiers of Antiochus IV laid siege to Jerusalem and overcame its defenses. An altar to their gods, Zeus, was raised in the temple on the mount. Pigs were sacrificed in the temple courtyard. Profane blood spilled upon Judaism's most sacred stones. The Jewish priest Mattathias and his 5 sons led the resistance, the Jewish resistance. And 2 years later, when Mattathias died, his son Judah, who was called Maccabee, the Hammer, took the helm. Within 2 years of Judah Maccabees taking the helm, the Syrians and Greeks were driven out of Jerusalem and the temple was cleansed. Now, it wasn't all as tidy as that, though. They drove them out of the city, they took back the temple, but they were still under siege. In order to shrive and rededicate the temple, oil lamps needed to burn throughout the night. But there was only enough oil for one night, and after these years of fighting, there was no oil left to be found. The victorious Jewish fighters lit the lamps and set out in search of more oil. But by some miracle, though they found no more oil, the lamps lasted for 8 nights instead of 1, allowing a new source of oil to be found, and the holy fire was kept alive. Oh, that was the second candle. This is the third. In the Jewish tradition, candles or lamps are lit at the start of Shabbat to give honor to the day, to provide light so that families can eat and interact without stumbling. The Hanukkah lights, though, are not lit to provide illumination for tasks or to give warmth. They are lit for their beauty rather than for their utility. The light they give is sacred, and we are invited to stop what we're doing and simply be in the presence of the flame. We are invited to be still and meditate on the flame. We are not using the light of the Hanukkah menorah to read or eat or move, but only to be. Fourth candle. Like the candles themselves, we burn brightly, we people. Our bodies burn calories. Even the workings of our minds burns calories. Like these candles and the lamps, we only have so much time in which to create our light. Fifth candle. There are times when our light is muted, times when the darkness and the cold wind make us shiver, when our lights, and make our lights flicker and dim. Here at this darkest time of the year for us, when the days are brief and the nights sometimes go on forever, we often find our enthusiasm is dampened. Our energy is at a low ebb. Our bodies are so concerned with that everyday work of basic existence in the cold and the dark, it can be a struggle to do more than the bare minimum. Sixth candle. But here is a true thing. We can take fire from another's fire and not be diminished ourselves and not diminish the other. We can share warmth with another and thus be warmed. That flame, the flames of this Hanukkah, the flame of our chalice, the Christmas candles, all of these fires did not begin with our burning, and they will not end when our lights have passed into stillness and silence. We will pass the light on to one another, to our children and every child, to those who stand up, sit down, or lie down with us, to our friends, to strangers who need our light. And there are strangers who need our light, strangers next door, strangers on the other side of the world, strangers in another city, strangers in the next room. 7. In the rededication of the temple, they knew they had only enough oil for one night, but they lit that lamp anyway. Judah Maccabee, the hammer. Oh my God, how much do I love that? There's so much there. He didn't know where they would get more oil. Nobody knew. It was all used up. It was more precious than gold. It was keeping people warm at night. We can't spare any for this. This? Knowing the temple fire was something different, and it was not lit for warmth, and not lit to find your way, and not lit to do your work by. Still those crazy Maccabeans lit lamps and had hope the fire would last. Hope is only hope when darkness falls. 8. What darkness do we face? What darkness is in our hearts right now at this season? It's the same darkness we always face, that of oppression under many names, that of fear and hatred of the stranger and the other, the sorrow of loss, personal, communal, national, global. We also have the sorrow of that and the challenges that come along with the gains we make even. And so then we ask ourselves, with all this darkness, what light do we have? Well, the same light we've always had. The light of compassion and the light of truth. The light by which we seek to know the stranger and ease one another's pain. And so what do? We people of the flame, in many iterations. We take fire and burn brightly. We reach out and share the flame and our warmth. We can move forward together, walking, crawling, rolling, whatever we need to do, taking light from one another and giving our light to one another. And we can sit here today for just a moment and meditate on a flame that's not lit for any task, but only for the beauty of itself. Let's take a breath in, let it out. The 9th candle on the Hanukkah is called the Shamash. That just means helper. Its light burns every night of Hanukkah. So, who or what will be your Shamash in the days to come? For whom will you be the Shamash, lighting a brighter flame, adding to the light each night, each day? Here is a true thing. We can take fire from another's burning, and neither will be diminished. We can give warmth to one another and thus be warmed. That flame did not begin to burn with us, and it will not end with us. We pass the light on, one to another, to our children, and to theirs, and to every child, to those who stand up, sit down, or lie down with us in the name of love, justice, compassion, and peace. And we can know that our light will not end. We will give it to those friends and to strangers, and it will carry on long beyond our own moment. Hope is truly hope when the darkness falls. And my message to you today, informed by Hanukkah and by our own traditions and the seasons, is that our fire will burn brighter for the darkness in which it is kindled. Amen. Take the light.